if you're new to welding, if you want to get into welding, this video is going to be more for you. If you know how to weld, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the feedback because that's how I'm learning as well. So don't be like me. Don't just think I'm going to get this thing out of the box, plug it in, and be a professional welder overnight, because it took me 2 nights. Hello and welcome back to Hardworking Man. If you follow the channel, you know I got this new Eastonmade FG60, the firewood grapple, 60-inch firewood bucket grapple, and I absolutely love it. But I found a huge problem with it. Ever since I've owned it, I don't ever want to take it off. I always have been told, don't come with a problem if you don't have a solution, and I have one. Let me explain to you why I don't ever want to take this off, but why you have to and how I'm going to fix that. I know I sound like a broken record, but that is by far and away the best grapple I've ever run. I've had Land Pride, I've had Erskine, which is a very expensive commercial grapple. I've run off-name brand ones, and that Eastonmade is by far and away the best I've ever used, especially for firewood. I got other videos about that, and I'll have more to come, but one solution to not having to take that off is with firewood and IBC totes and pallets and everything. You got to use pallet forks a lot. I have this. It's an old set of 3-point pallet forks. It's actually made out of railroad ties, so they're nothing fancy. I would love a legit set because, as you can see, these ties are pretty wide and they get hung up from time to time. The forks don't lock in at all. They just free slide so they move. But with 3-point pallet forks, one of the keys is a hydraulic top link, which I have, and that comes in so handy. Now, one of the other things that I'm always doing, especially the way we operate, is moving trailers, moving log splitters, moving equipment. And I've done it with the tines on this, but I think I have a better solution. All right, so we've all seen those trailer movers that slip over a pallet fork. I'm going to build something similar for this Eastonmade grapple. This is AR400 steel. It doesn't bend much. I, luckily, am a collector of things for if I'll ever need it. And a few years ago, I bought a bunch of just steel, random steel, from a guy on Marketplace, believe it or not, and this was one of them. It's been sitting in the corner of the garage forever. This was about 4 feet. I've cut a few chunks off it, but my thought is I can slide these over the end, cut them down so they fit nice, put some cross members on them, a little hook and a chain so it'll hold on to here, and then a receiver, one of several that I have in my cabinet because I'm a collector of things. I will weld to the top. I am now a professional welder fabricator because I got a new Arccaptain MiG 200 welder, and if you watched the last video, I was running flux core. It was literally the first time I'd ever run that welder. You guys watched me turn it on and run it, and they were good for me. They weren't great. I've learned a lot since then. I got my regulator. I'm running gas and solid core 035 wire. I've run some practice and setting up that machine more correctly, and some people said my welds last time looked like dog, and they weren't wrong. They were good for me, but they weren't good as a welder. I think I'm so much better now. You're going to want to see how much I've improved in one day just messing around with that welder. But I'm going to build this. This is going to go on top, a receiver in it, and depending how it comes out when it's done, I may build some type of mount that I can just mount it on here so it's always available. Slide it on, chain, move trailers, take it off, back to the grapple. One of my favorite accessories ever. Now, when I make statements like I'm a professional welder fabricator, that's just me being me. I'm not by any means, and if you watch my videos, you know that. But I like to figure stuff out on my own, see what I can do, what I can build, and I can just keep getting better, especially when you start where I started. I'm going to explain some things I learned about that welder in more layman's terms, because people would leave comments on my last video about my welding and saying, adjust this or adjust that, and not being a welder, never having been taught by anyone, I had to look up what they meant. So if you're new to welding, if you want to get into welding, this video is going to be more for you. If you know how to weld, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the feedback because that's how I'm learning as well. And I've already, like I said, learned so much in the last 24 hours that I think I'm going to blow some of your minds with how much better I am at welding now than I was in that last video. So look at my welds, look at my process, and just let me know how far I've come, or am I crazy? So what am I going to do to figure this out? Let me show you how I thought about this and what my, I guess, thought process was on this build. So initially my thought was to come out here, put this here, cut along the beam. So I put it on the outside, drew with Sharpie. I wanted to cut sort of the shape of this tine, and then leave the top piece, bend it down, weld it in, and then weld the top braces across. But then the more I thought about it, when I lift a trailer, these tines are going to be lifting up. And even though I'm way better at welding, if I don't have to use my welds to lift my, say, 30-foot gooseneck or a dump trailer full of gravel or logs, then why would I? So then I switched to, well, let me use the top of this steel and I will cut out the bottom. So now what I'm going to do instead is slide this over, put a piece of angle iron down here and clamp it to this surface so it's a flat bottom. I can then draw where it was with a Sharpie, cut out along here and back along there, bend it down, weld it, and when I put it on, it should fit nicely, but the top is going to be the factory bends, no welds to break. Then the cross members, the chain, the hitch mounting or hitch receiver on top, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to just show a little bit of how I do this, but mostly it's going to be welding and testing to see if it works. So now with this setting on the top of the tooth and this clamped for a straight line, I can just draw. And then towards the end of the tooth, it does go down. So I'll try to match that a little bit just by feel. Now I'll do this on the other side, then I'll know where to cut. And I'll cut out and across the top, remove this piece, bend the bottom up and weld it so it fits snugly. I'm also going to share some stuff that I learned as a newer beginner welder that I was wrong about thinking going in. One of them being, I always thought flux core welding would be so much easier than dealing with gas and, you know, the solid wire gas combo versus the flux core. I thought flux core would be easier because you don't have to worry about gas, you don't have to worry about anything. Let me tell you, after doing both, welding with gas is so much easier, in my opinion, than the flux core welding. So if you're new to welding, don't let the gas deter you. It'll make your experience so much nicer like it has mine. Now this is probably not the best tool for this job. If I had a plasma cutter or something, that would be so much nicer, and I'm sure there's better options, but out of what I have, this is so much easier. And no, this probably isn't OSHA approved, but I'm going to use this Makita metal chop saw that I use and I love to cut a lot of this, and then I'll get matching cuts on both sides, and then I'll finish the rest with my grinder and my diamond wheel. But I can't clamp it in because it's too long. So yeah, my fingers are close, but they're not in harm's way. I'm being as safe as I can, being me. So how this saw is designed is you want to cut like this. You want the flatter surfaces up and down, but obviously that couldn't work. But you can see I got a pretty nice cut on both sides. It's a little off compared to where I drew, but it's going to be straight. So we'll test it and see how it works. I'll cut the rest with the grinder and we should be good to go. So I'm not sure if I got on a burr with that angle iron or what happened, but that's why I cut like that with the saw, so these match, and this is the cut I need. So that was an errant line, and it's a good thing I did it the way I did. Now I'll take this, it's the Bad Dog diamond plated cutting grinding wheel that I love, and I can have a link for that in the description, 5% off. I'd recommend that. The drill bit's not so much, but I'm going to finish this cut on both sides, try to get as much of that one as I can, and then I'll come back and I'll cut this top piece out. So now I cut that top piece with that saw, and now I'll just finish it off here with the grinder. And then we just have to snap it off there at the end. And once we get the back side, we can clean that up a little bit. All right, so we've got it cut out. You can see it kicked up a little bit. We're gonna put it in the vise, smash it down, get it, I guess, sort of bent to match this as best we can. And then we're gonna weld that in. And this should slide over that fork nicely. And then we go with the top pieces and the hitch. Now here, to keep this straight, I'm going to try to keep a C-clamp on it. Not sure if that will work, or we'll just have to do that after. All right, so we're gonna need a matched set of these, but you can see it fits pretty good on there. Not super tight, but will be good enough for sure. All right, we're gonna clean a spot here just to get a quick tack weld on it, do it on the other side, then we'll clean this entire weld channel and weld both sides. So now with both sides tacked into place, I'm going to clean this channel up along the edges, and I'm just going to try to run a little, I guess, V-groove down it. Whether that's right or not, I'm not positive, but that's how I'm doing it. All right, so I said I'm going to share some things with you that I learned. So if you're a beginner welder or thinking of getting into it, you don't have to go through the same, I guess, struggles that I have. Flux core, in my opinion, is not easier than gas MIG welding. Another thing, in my last video, I just took this brand new Arccaptain MiG 200 out of the box, plugged it in, got the wire set up, got my pieces prepped, and tried to weld. If you pay attention to people who weld, they say, test it on some scrap, get your settings right. So today, I came out and I did all kinds of practice welds with the gas. And let me tell you, I learned so much about the settings on this machine, about how to get a better weld, and my welding has improved immensely. So don't be like me. Don't just think, I'm gonna get this thing out of the box, plug it in, and be a professional welder overnight, because it took me 2 nights. Now, another thing I learned going with flux versus gas is flux core welding is usually for outside environments or windier environments, where with the gas you want to have not gusty wind. So I'm in the garage, I'm going to close the garage part way. The lighting's not going to be the best, but gas welding, because of the shielding gas, you have to adjust your pressure based on the environment, and flux core welding is more of an outside or stick welding type environment welder. Now, another thing I learned is when you're flux core welding, you drag your weld, and when you're welding with gas, you push your weld. So let's see how much I've improved from my last video till this one. So still not pro welder level, but much improved. And this should actually hold much better, which I said last time, but now I actually have a little better idea what I'm talking about. Okay, so like I said, still learning my second day with this welder, but I think everyone would have to agree if you watched my last video that this is so much better. Obviously, if you've been welding for years, you would probably say that's ugly, but I can now grind that, paint it, and it will actually hold instead of grinding off a bunch of chunky, non-penetrating welds. So much nicer than what I've ever done. All right, so for the next step, I'm building my base plate slash spacers, whatever you want to call it. So what I did is I took another piece of this and I cut it out so that it sits in here and I can get more weld surface. And then I had to go get another piece of scrap steel from the same purchase, different color, but the same everything. And those will be my two. So I'm going to get all the painted areas cleaned up, get this welded together, and then we'll place the receiver on top. So we're making progress. All right, so I got these brackets cut out. I got them all cleaned up. Now I've got the back one on and I got it clamped in. I'm gonna bring it in and weld it. Now, I thought about just pulling the bucket into the garage and welding it that way, but being a new welder, I'm terrified that I would have something wrong and not unhooking the battery to the tractor, that I'd fry the computer. I probably wouldn't, but better safe than sorry, especially as I'm learning. Now I'm going to make sure this still fits on before I put the other bracket on so that I didn't get anything tweaked when I brought it in here to weld it. All right, so I got a bit of a gap here to fill. We'll see if I can get it done. I would say that's not too bad at all. Now again, I am no welder, but I think that will work. Not bad for day 2 on this Arccaptain MiG 200. We'll have to do a little grinding, but that is definitely penetrating, maybe a touch too hot. What do you guys think? All right, we're getting closer. Initially, I was going to put this receiver at the back end of it, but I got to thinking, the further it is out, the more turning radius I'll have without risking the outside of the 60-inch bucket hitting the trailer. Now, I won't be able to turn super sharp most likely, but I think this is going to work. Or I'll get this whole thing built and find out I can turn hardly at all, because I didn't think of that until just now. All right, this is arguably the most important weld, because this is what's going to hold all the weight. I mean, I would say not too bad. Maybe a little thick, but I'm okay with that. A little crooked there at the end. I'll go through and hit that again. But I mean, I feel pretty good about it. Again, be honest with me in the comments. What do you think? Is this gonna hold? We're gonna test it at the end of this video. I'll tell you what, making stuff takes a long time. I've been working on this all day. Andrew, if this works, I think you should make these and sell them so that people don't have to spend all day making them like I am. I am hoping this isn't sticking out too far. I mean, I guess we'll see. This might not be the highest quality receiver, but the welding is what I was really, I guess, interested in, and I think I did. Well, I know these are 1,000,000 times better than any weld I've ever done in my life. So the last couple steps are going to be the chain hook. I got to figure out where I want that. And this chain, so it will go weld underneath and come around. I think it'll have to go up here and hook in to keep this from being able to be pulled off. So here, hook here, and it's test time. So am I going to win a welding competition? I will not. But, I mean, I'm real happy with that. A little chunky maybe? I'm not sure. Let me know what you think. I guess ultimately if it holds, that's what matters. All right, well, it's the moment of truth. We're about to go move a dump trailer with 3 tons of stone in it and see if that thing holds, because I don't do anything just part way here. I'm not going to go move something light. But before I do that, I said I was going to talk a little bit more about this Arccaptain MiG 200 and stuff that I learned. Someone told me turn your inductance up. I didn't even know what that was. On this welder, it's right here. It's your hardness or softness of metal, and the harder it is, the harder it digs or penetrates, and softer, if you need to pool or build something, you would go to soft. This is your wire speed. I said it was amperage, I believe, because it's got an A. It's actually the wire speed, and then this is your voltage. So when it's set on the synergy welding, it gets you in the ballpark, and then you make tweaks on your practice pieces. And that's what I did, and that's how I improved as much as I did from the last video to this one. Now let's go see if I truly did better and if I can move a trailer with this that weighs probably 8,000 to 9,000 pounds. So other than paint and testing, we are ready to go. Now, don't cheat. Do you think this breaks off picking this trailer up and moving it a little bit before we go do it? Comment down below, leave a thumbs up for the effort, because it's at least worth that. So one thing I can already tell you I like better is I can see the ball out there. Where on my little trailer mover 3-point hitch adapter, you can't see it. My depth judgment is a little off right now from welding all day. I might need to learn how to set my helmet better. I'm nervous. Come on. I told you this trailer was heavy. That's all the old coyote wants. But the weld is holding, I think. I'm gonna step over it. So this is the ultimate test. I won't be moving this heavy a trailer too often. And this coyote doesn't have the lift capacity because we're quite a bit out front, which is something you lose by moving it out here. But I think it's gonna work. Woo! Ah! The weld is going to hold. There we go. So it has its limits, but it ain't breaking, baby. I'm a fabricator. What do you guys think? Did you have faith in me after my last welding video? Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed these, let me know. If you thought that was going to work, let me know. Let me honestly know what you think of my welds. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.